Hello, everybody. This is Randy Jones with eThink Education. I appreciate you joining us today. We have a ton of attendees still trickling in here, so we'll probably get started in about 90 seconds. We had nearly 350 registrations for this session, so we really appreciate you all joining us. As we wait for everybody else here, I'd like to draw your attention to the questions pane of the GoToWebinar control panel. Pop in there, say hi. I see a bunch of eThink clients in here. It's good to see you all. Amy at the top, it's always good to see you. Let us know where you're calling in from, who you're with. Will you be at any conferences in the next 6 months or so? Or perhaps we met you at one of the many conferences here in the fall. Jump in there, get used to using the GoToWebinar questions pane in the control panel. We're going to ask for you to be as interactive as possible today. Any questions, thoughts, we'd like for you to jump in, and we'll try to answer those as they come in. So just as we wait here for a few folks to continue to trickle in, if you could jump in and say hi. All right. We have people coming in from all over the world today. That's fun. Very jealous. It looks like we have someone from South Florida. It is not warm here in the Maryland area today. Wisconsin, probably not that warm in Wisconsin either. All right, well, I want to respect everybody's time. We have, I think, a quorum here. We have a good amount of folks who are joining us. And for those who might be joining in a bit late, we will record this session. We'll send it to everybody who has registered. So thanks again for joining us for 4 workplace learning trends to bring to your L&D program in 2020. Learning and development is rapidly evolving. It's a ton of fun right now. There's a lot of really great solutions out there and some great ideas that I think hopefully we'll be able to share with you today. My name is Randy Jones. I'm the Vice President of Business Development and Strategy here at eThink Education. And Paige, I appreciate you joining us from Open Sesame.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paige Cracky, and I am the curation team lead here at Open Sesame. It's great to be here.
Excellent. Thanks again. All right, quick agenda for today. We're going to give you a quick overview of both eThink and Open Sesame. We won't spend too long on these slides, as I know a lot of folks on this session are already familiar with our services, but I do think it's important for us to set the stage with what Paige and I do every day and the organizations that we represent. I'll then go through an HR.com report, the state of learning solutions and learning engagement. There's some interesting stats in there that I think both show that L&D and training in general is on an upswing. I think we've all seen that, but there's still some hurdles that heading into 2020 and years beyond we need to address. So we'll look at that report. Then we'll get through the 4 trends as advertised here for this session. Then at the very end, we'll spend a little bit of time just talking through eThink's 2 solutions, Moodle and Totara. And I see everybody's still chiming in to say hi. I appreciate that. Okay, so eThink, we are the largest Moodle partner in the world. We actually just yesterday at the Global Moodle Moot won Moodle's North American Partner of the Year, which we're very excited about. And we're also Totara's Global Partner of the Year. So we find ourselves right now when it comes to open source learning platforms to sort of be the go-to when somebody has questions or they're looking for an open source solution. So it's certainly an exciting time. Our model is a bit different than the traditional LMS model, especially when it comes to service. We offer what we call a fully managed experience, and we'll touch on that a little bit, I think, later. But essentially what that means is that our team becomes the extension of your team responsible for your learning platform. I think we're far more high touch than the traditional LMS vendor. And we do all of our hosting. We are an AWS advanced tier technology partner with education competencies. We do All of our implementations start with a really detailed discovery phase. What are clients looking to accomplish in their ever-evolving learning and development programs over the next 6, 12, 24 months? Integrations. We'll talk about integrations quite a bit today. The way that this field is trending is no longer where the LMS is the end-all be-all, and the ability to integrate with all of these excellent third-party solutions is becoming more and more important. We provide content through our wonderful partners like Open Sesame. We provide an awful lot of consulting. As the market evolves, it can be more and more cumbersome to understand the different solutions on the market. So we do a lot of consulting for our clients. So high level, that's a little bit of and Paige, I'll pass it to you to give a high level overview of Open Sesame.
Great, thanks, Randy. So hello, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Paige Cracky, and I'm coming here from Portland, Oregon, the headquarters of Open Sesame, where we help to develop the world's most productive and admired workforces, primarily through a catalog of over 20,000 off-the-shelf training courses. Now, as I also mentioned, I'm on the curation team here. So that's a major, major focus of ours, not just providing you with courses and throwing those into an LMS or into a learning system management system, but curating those and making sure that we are able to find the right course to meet your learners' needs on whatever device or whatever platform that they're accessing that content. So that's a huge focus of ours and has only grown as we've developed our curation team, and as well as our machine learning and artificial intelligence driven curation tools within the platform itself. So in addition to curation, we have really strict quality standards for all of the content within our marketplace. So you can rest assured knowing that any content that you're delivering through Open Sesame is going to be this best of breed content model. And we have, again, seamless integration with any LMS. So tons of partners out there that make it incredibly simple to sync these courses over into your LMS and configure them however you like.
Excellent. And appreciate all the questions and the introductions still coming in on the chat. Good to connect with everybody here. Okay, so let's start here. This is the HR.com report I had mentioned in the agenda, and I think this first bullet is really encouraging for the entire industry and everybody who's on this conversation here, in that 86% of the HR professionals say that their organizations are using technology for the purpose of providing learning to employees, right? That number, I'm curious for folks who've been in the L&D training, or if you're HR that happens to oversee the L&D functionalities, what you think that number might have been 5 years ago. Just out of curiosity there in the questions pane, what percentage of folks who are in the training L&D HR space would have said that their organizations are using technologies for the purpose of learning? Personally, I would guess 5 years ago it would be closer to the 40% range. Where just large organizations have budget and have the support of their senior executives to use technology to attract and retain employees. I did see a stat just recently that now 82% of L&D pros are saying that they have the support of their senior executive team, which again, I think 5 years ago would have been far different. So great news there. Now, the following bullets, I think, are places where, as an industry, we still have some hurdles and we could potentially improve. So 59% of organizations are saying that they provide their learning in a single place. That's a number that's increasing. But for those of you who might be in organizations who have multiple learning platforms, there are certainly some issues, some hurdles there when it comes to reporting, user experience. There's a lot of different difficulties that come along with having multiple platforms. So in the market right now, we are seeing consolidation. Groups who have had maybe 8 different learning platforms are starting to realize, hey, this is tremendously cumbersome. Let's cut that down and see if we can't get it to one centralized learning hub that's uniform across the entire organization. Not always possible, but we certainly see that trend. Now, these numbers are a little disturbing, and numbers that I think we will see change here in the months and years to come. And that only 16% of respondents on this survey strongly agree they have a top-notch culture of learning. Only 16%. Headcounts going up in L&D, more budgets going towards L&D, but only 16% of folks say, yes, we're doing a great job. I expect that number to change, but it is a tall order. It is a difficult thing to cater to the different learning needs of a multi-generational workforce, and not to mention the different types of needs across different business units. But hopefully that number, especially with the technologies that are now here to support anybody in the HR, L&D training role, increases. And only 22% strongly agree that their learners are strongly engaged. This is an issue that we hear a lot. Some folks, they come to us and they say, we have a program, but we have a really difficult time with engaging our learners. Maybe the content's outdated. Maybe the LMS is cumbersome. It's just difficult to take, might take 6 or 7 clicks to get where they need to go. So these are two numbers that stuck out to me in this report as being low, that we're hoping as technology providers, we're the answer. We're here to help you and consult you in ways where this 16 and 22% go up. And just continuing here, 17% have good metrics to measure learner engagement. That's a real problem. Those other two, those are trends. Those are things that I think we can make better. Only 17% having good metrics to measure learner engagement. That's a real problem. Reporting through learning platforms has been really difficult in the past. Not easy to pull the appropriate data that maybe your senior executives are looking for, or even your L&D teams, just to see how engaged those learners are and how well your program is doing. And then this one, I mentioned it, referred to it earlier, that the most widely cited weakness of a learning platform is the poor ability to integrate. We're going to talk a lot about this one. This is one of our trends. This has to change. If you've walked up and down DevLearn, ATD, Learning Technologies in London, any of these learning conferences, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of qualified vendors out there that can help your programs. And if your learning platform doesn't integrate well, that's a real issue. So we'll talk through that quite a bit. Now, before we get into our first trends, here's sort of a secret that I think many LMS learning platform providers keep to themselves and maybe they don't share publicly. But the LMS industry really has come really close to feature parity. There's no feature, no magic bullet that a competitive learning platform has that we don't, that we're jealous about every day. And vice versa, I'd assume that there are other companies are looking at our solutions and say, we do a lot of what they do from a feature functionality perspective. So if we're to put ourselves in your shoes as the end user, and there's 700 different learning management systems on the market, and I'm here saying they pretty much all do the same thing, that puts you in a really difficult spot. Again, if I'm in your shoes. And the first trend that I think could help you within that decision-making process that we see is really important is building around the learning ecosystem. Now, I know learning ecosystem has become a buzzword everywhere you go, every conference you attend. 30% of the sessions are about learning ecosystems, but that's for good reason. And this is what the learning ecosystem in the past looked like. It was the LMS. Your LMS was your learning ecosystem. I think there are still LMS vendors who want to keep it this way, right? Use our learning platform, use our analytics tool, Use our tool that's similar here to what we have at GoToWebinar that we're utilizing. Use all of our proprietary tools, even if they're not what's best for your users. Even if it's not best of breed, the best solution for your learning initiatives. And this is really sort of an outdated way to go about building your learning program. And when we talk about building around the learning ecosystem, there could probably be 50 check marks here, but some things to think about. Of course, the strategy. What are you looking to accomplish? What are you looking to accomplish down the road? What technologies will be involved? And on the technologies, a lot of organizations don't think open source versus closed source. What are the difference there? Of course, the content. If you don't have good content, you're going to struggle within your L&D program, regardless of what the rest of your learning ecosystem looks like. Your people, who are you catering to? Who are the end users? Who's going to need to take the assessments? Where is that data going to go? How does that data need to be collected for perhaps your senior executives? And then the support structure. Our industry is known for really poor support across the board. Especially the learning management system industry. Let me know, I'm curious in the questions pane, if I could draw your attention back there. If you're to grade the support provided, actually I might have this as a poll, so I'm going to skip that. I'm not going to get there. I think we have a poll on that one. All right, so this is an example of a more modern learning ecosystem where the LMS is the hub, right? The learning hub, it sits at the middle of the learning ecosystem. But best of breed, you could choose the other solutions on the market as needed. And of course, this could be spread out, this honeycomb diagram. We could have another 100 different pieces of technology here. This is just an example. But let's use e-commerce for an example. As I'm building out my learning ecosystem, maybe there's an e-commerce platform out there that really meets my unique needs, that is what's best for my organization. But 18 months from now or 2 years from now, maybe there's a better solution that comes on the market. And the idea here of this ecosystem and being best of breed is that we could take that e-commerce solution out of our learning ecosystem, replace it, best of breed, with a new e-commerce solution that's maybe has additional functionality that can be useful for my organization, without disrupting everything else that's going on here in your learning ecosystem. And while still sort of future-proofing your learning environment. So when we talk a little bit about the learning ecosystem and why it's so important to build around an ecosystem, it truly is being able to best of breed, choose these different tools on the market to incorporate in that ecosystem. And then trend 2, Paige, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, and I love that honeycomb image. It's such a great illustration of how dynamic that curation process can be across the board. And it also filters really nicely into this trend that I'm going to talk about, employing a best of breed content model, which is really at the heart of what we do at Open Sesame. It's taking all of that content that's out there in the ether and then filtering it down to just what's relevant to you. So I think I have a poll that I want to start out with, which is the next slide, that I love talking about this with people in person, and I also like using it as a poll. What factor is most important to your organization when deciding whether to buy or build content? Because of course, that's something that I know people who are building out an L&D program are always thinking, should I buy this or should I build it myself and create it custom to my organization? So we have quite a few factors here: timing, budget, maintenance, resources, business impact. Feel free to add others in the chat box, but I'll go ahead and open up that poll for people to respond.
Great. Yeah, the poll is live. Maybe we'll give another 20 seconds or so. I see we're starting to get some responses here. Thanks everybody for responding.
Awesome. And I love watching the responses come in. who will win out?
It's like we have a secret page that we don't have to share.
Exactly until our 20 seconds are up, and then everyone's in on it.
All right, 5 more seconds here, and go ahead and close it down.
Awesome. Cool. So these are really interesting results and pretty consistent with the feedback that I receive in polls and in person, where business impact shows up consistently as the determining factor. It's kind of interesting how low timing ranks in this specific poll. That's definitely an interesting one to me, but that business impact is obviously critical. I mean, of course, that's the whole point of developing a learning program. You want it to have a business impact and you want to be able to show that impact. And so that's where the curation piece comes in, and the real analytical side of build or buy, do and evaluating and content evaluation comes into play. So we absolutely want to ensure that the content that you're using is going to have an incredible impact on your organization. And the great thing about off-the-shelf content is that it enables those topics that are specific to your organization and that really need to be built by you. You've got tons of time to do that, because those more general topics areas you've got access to through Open Sesame and through the curated content that's out there. So here's another illustration that I really like, going back to that enterprise learning ecosystem that we've been talking about, that illustrates it that shows the complexity of what's really out there, right? And you've got Open Sesame sitting sort of between these e-learning courses on the right, and then connecting companies on the far left through your learning management system. So we've got, which Moodle and Totara, and then also it's becoming even more complex, as Randy was mentioning, learning experience platforms, different external content sort of platforms where you can infuse that, not necessarily through or connected through the LMS, but from sort of an external environment. So at Open Sesame, we work with thousands of publishers to narrow down that content that's out there and bring it to you and filter it through that LMS, LXP, whatever environment your learners are accessing content. So Randy, let's go ahead on to the next slide. And as I mentioned, it wouldn't be a best of breed content model if we weren't ensuring that that content truly is best of breed. At Open Sesame, we have 38 rigorous course quality standards. Those are growing every day and becoming even more and more rigorous as we move into, we've added, none of our content is going to have any more flash. That was long ago, but all of our content is optimized for mobile. All of our content, we're moving into new spaces. VR, AR is really exciting to us. So we want to make sure that the companies that we are partnering with are founded on the principles of reputation, innovation, unparalleled support, which again, we will continue to mention. I know that's one reason why the partnership between Open Sesame and eThink makes so much sense, is because that support foundation is critical to both of our organizations. Flexibility and a global focus, that's also critical to us. That's something that when we go back to the buy or build concept, making a global course becomes even more difficult to conceptualize when you're building a course for a global audience and have to deal with things like localization and accessibility to all of your learners. Let's go on to the next one. And here are some of the topics that we do offer. This is an overview of the Open Sesame Marketplace by category. We have everything from business skills content, safety, compliance, certifications, technology, industry-specific content. And I like this image because it does show the model of bringing that all together into one space. So it's accessible to all of your learners, regardless of what your need is. You can go on to the next one. And here, we're talking a little bit about what Open Sesame's courses look like in a stylistic or format sense. So all of our courses enable you to break beyond the barrier of maybe what you have access to through whatever authoring tool you may be using to build content, and infuse new styles and formats like microlearning or animation, humor, branching. We have some fantastic options that actually take you through a scenario and branch off one way or another, as well as exercises, gamification, language learning. So this sort of ecosystem of different styles of content enables that learning variety that we believe is foundational to learning impact down the line. Awesome. And now, and this is this is my trend as well. Sorry, Randy, I was thinking we were switching back.
No problem.
So next, because eThink and Open Sesame both have ways of analytics, of looking at analytics and reporting. So I'll talk a little bit about that now and what you do have access to within the Open Sesame platform. And going back to the initial stats that we were looking at the very beginning, it's critical, right, to be able to measure the metrics of your training program with tangible data. Because if you don't have that, you don't really have any way to see if there's been an impact, aside from maybe that anecdotal feedback, which is great. But in addition to that anecdotal feedback, you want to be able to have the data to back it up, and to show that your program is working and to show that your learners are getting something out of it. So within Open Sesame, we have a few ways of doing this. The one that is probably the most at the forefront of our system is the My Insights dashboard. This is accessible to all admins who utilize Open Sesame, and it illustrates the course usage over time, number of enrollments per learner, course completions, average ratings across your specific learner base. So it's a great way to gauge the health of your learning program as you go through. And we say all the time, curation is not done in a vacuum. Curation is not done all at one time. It needs to be an ongoing process. And this tool really makes that possible because you can analyze your program as you go and adjust as you go as well. So we'll go on to the next slide, show a little bit more about that data graphically. You can see enrollments and completions over time and average course ratings over time. And then on to the next one. You can take a look at, this is not as visually beautiful, but it's so valuable, this information about highest rated and lowest rated courses. Again, going back to that ongoing curation, you are really easily able to switch out your lowest rated courses for maybe another, and identify trends in that category, and then swap it out for those courses that are resonating with your learners and that are getting those high ratings that obviously are the ideal. So that's just one way to ensure that using analytics and tracking tools within your learning program, you can improve it over time and make sure that you're constantly curating and making sure your learners are accessing the best of the best.
Yep. And going back to that last point on the HR.com poll, that this was the main issue, right? There, all the HR professionals, 13% of them said that they're doing a great job with analytics and reporting. So what can be developed here can be really, really powerful.
Absolutely.
And then the fourth trend is just the importance of a service-heavy model. And I do appreciate all the questions coming in. I was trying to feverishly respond. If we don't get to your question, we'll respond here as a follow-up, but we'll continue to see them as they come in. Thanks for being so engaged there. So the importance of a service-heavy model is truly growing, primarily due to the feature parity among a lot of the learning platforms. And again, putting myself in your shoes, if I'm looking at a learning platform, or if I'm looking at a specific content and I see that it's just about equal, from there, what are the additional benefits that I should be looking for my organization? We review a lot of RFPs. We responded to, I think I was told 10 in the last 2 weeks that we saw come through. And a lot of the RFPs don't ask for serviced data, which always surprises me. It's always feature functionality. And as an LMS provider, we usually go through those things and say, Yes, 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 yes. That's what an LMS does. We can accomplish that. I definitely recommend that you look toward asking additional questions about what their service model looks like. And this one specifically, I think, speaks to the Open Sesame service model. Paige, if you want to jump in
Yeah, for sure.
this slide.
Yeah, this is a fun one for me to speak to. Um, at Open Sesame and at eThink, we both pride ourselves on having a sort of service at the center of our values, supporting internal customers, external customers, our partners is critical to our business. So we have some really rapid response times to all of our live chat, email, phone. And this info is actually up on a dashboard in our Portland office, so I can take a look at it. And any point in that 15 seconds via chat, we're typically well below that. So it's a fun metric to strive for because you feel really good about it, because that support, you're right, Randy, it's undervalued in terms of what you see in RFPs, what the questions that you get when people are evaluating solutions. There's so much that can be accomplished through having that direct and immediate support line. And I think it's just something that should be considered way up the list of questions that are asked, box to be checked.
Excellent. Yeah, amazing data there. And we do similar reporting our own data. And I think in our industry, I ask the question all the time, is when you submit a support ticket to your LMS company, what happens next? I typically hear there's about an 18-hour, 12 to 18-hour waiting period. And sometimes the person who gets the support ticket says, hey, thanks for this. Let me transfer it over to Sarah's division because she's the person who looks over whatever the ticket might be about. And then Sarah maybe responds saying, yes, this can be accomplished. Here's the user guide. Here's the link to the user community. Here's your 12-step process. Let us know how it goes. And that's really sort of a subpar way to provide service. And it really has become the norm in our industry. And our organization has tried to flip that, where we respond, this is in minutes. I think we average about 40 minutes over our last audit to support tickets. And it's our goal in that response to say, yes, what you're looking for is possible. I've done it for you. Let me know how it looks. That's just something that we think we can do quicker, easier, more seamlessly, less painfully than maybe sending over a user manual or sending you to the user community. So a big difference in the support model there. So I'm going to go ahead and use that poll. I almost did this earlier. I forgot I had this poll up here. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the audience on the high school grade book, A, B, C, D, F. How would you grade the service provided by your LMS vendor? We did this one. We did a live session about evaluating, hacking the LMS evaluation process. It was, and we did this live, and it's great in webinars. I see results coming in. Thanks, everybody. Please continue to give us those results. And I see a couple A's. Hopefully, those are eThink clients. I should have asked the eThink clients not to respond. That was
yeah, it's going to skew your results.
But live, it's amazing. We asked for A's, and it's sort of crickets. There's 100+ people sitting there in the room at ATD, and B's, there's not much. D's and F's were nearly half of that room, which I think is amazing. So we'll give this poll maybe another 5 seconds here before we go ahead and shut it down. Actually, these results are better than we typically see. They're more encouraging for us as LMS vendors, where the B's and F's were only 25%, where it's usually about 50. But 50% of you gave a C, a D, or an F. And again, I'm hoping those A's were some of the eThink clients who are out there. I see I see a lot of folks writing in. Kevin, I appreciate that, the A plus for eThink. Thanks all. All right, let me go ahead and hide that poll. And now to close this out, I'm going to talk a little bit more specifically about eThink. If you should have any questions about those trends, Paige, I know, is monitoring the questions pane as well, and I'll continue to take a look. And when we're done, we'll see if there are any additional questions that we could address to the entire audience specific to any of those trends that we discussed. So closing this out here, telling you a little bit more about eThink and what we do. Our mission statement's recently been updated. We found our old statement maybe to be a bit too long and not quite hitting the mark. So we spent a lot of time internally in our own learning platform coming up with where we actually use Open Sesame content for the record. We asked our team to help us develop a new mission statement right to the point to empower organizations to maximize their learning initiatives. And the two platforms that we provide to do so are Moodle. Moodle is the most widely used LMS in the world. It is open source, so you can download it right now. You could maybe have Moodle within the next hour or so, but the question would be, what do you do next? What do you do with it? So it is best to be deployed by experts. There is a saying in the Moodle community that Moodle is free like a beer, not like a puppy. Simply meaning if I hand you a beer and you drink it, it's gone. If I hand you a puppy, there's a lot of training, a lot of love that has to go into that puppy to make sure the puppy acts appropriately. So that's what we do at eThink. We host and essentially make sure that your Moodle acts the way that you want it to. And really exciting, Moodle has just come out with their first new platform called Moodle Workplace. If you haven't seen it yet, we'd love to give you a demonstration. There's a lot of new functionality in Moodle Workplace that we're really excited about. Multi-tenancy functionality that I think is really the best in the market. An exciting new platform that our team has been working with Moodle headquarters to develop for quite some time now, that's now available. So I'd love to chat with you more about Moodle Workplace if you'd like. We also provide Totara. Totara is a learning management system specific to the corporate learning market that's really growing. There's some really nice functionality within Totara. I mentioned earlier that there's some feature parity. That's the same between Moodle and Totara as well. What we would do to help you determine which platform might be best would do a really deep dive needs analysis of what you're looking to accomplish, and then recommend the appropriate platform from there. A quick look at some of the organizations we work with, some really incredible success in the federal government, especially as of late with 900,000 users at FEMA. And every one of these platforms is different. I think that's one of the amazing things about an open source solution and how flexible it is that the unique learning needs of each of these organizations are tremendously different. And we can sort of work backwards to configure a platform that can get your learners in as few clicks as possible through the content, provide really incredible reporting. We have some analytics partners out there too that if you're looking for really detailed analytics, I see Kevin Allen from Ashland on this webinar. Their platform's incredible, their business intelligence platform for analytics. But the bigger point here being each and every one of the learning needs of these organizations is tremendously different. And if you're already running a Moodle or Totara, there's power in working with an open source platform. And one of the powers there is that if you're not being provided with the best possible service on the market, you can move your Moodle or Totara platform from one vendor, one partner like eThink, to another. We're really candid with our clients. If we're not the best, if we're not the best provider of this solution, you can take your data and move it elsewhere. We've got a ton of experience moving from self-hosted Moodle sites or from other Moodle or Totara providers to eThink. And to brag on our services team, I started here 5.5 years ago. We've been in business nearly 12 years. We've never lost one of our clients to another Moodle or Totara partner. So this is my favorite slide I've made here in my 5.5 years of eThink. All right, and it's easy for me to sort of go on and wax poetic about the service that we provide, but we do collect from our clients when they say something nice, when they give really positive feedback. We collect that in a Slack channel we call eThinkLove. We also tweet it under the hashtag eThinkLove. So here's some of the things that we've heard from our clients, and it's just fun to share. It's nice to share internally, and certainly on a session like this, nice to share with the audience. This last one I always point out because I think it was right around the season finale of Game of Thrones. Thank you, Sir Daniel. Great night of eThink. Love it.
I love that.
Some of the events we'll be at, I know eThink will be at some of these, Open Sesame will be at some of these. We might all be at both of them. If you're going to be here, any of these sessions, the global moot, I think, ends today. So we do have some members of our team there. If you happen to be in Barcelona right now, good for you, first of all, at that group. But if you're at any of these other conferences between now and I think this is the end of March covered here, we should certainly connect, sit down, grab a coffee, and chat a little bit. So that being said, Paige, is there anything that's coming through on the questions pane that you feel you want to address to the entire audience?
Yeah, this last one, will we be provided with a copy of the slides? And the answer is yes, I believe.
Yep, so we'll send a recording of this session. If you'd like the slides specifically, I don't think there's anything in here that we can't share. We will send as a follow-up an email to everybody with the recording, and I think we could probably PDF the slides and send them out to you if you would like.
Awesome. There are a couple of other comments. A+ for eThink. So again, skewing that data. Yeah. And then I think most of these, it'll probably be easier to get back to. There's lots of questions, so thank you everyone for asking some great questions, but probably best to try to address them after the webinar.
And we have folks asking about other trends that they see. And we wanted to highlight 4 here, but we could probably do another hour session on 10 more.
We could do a 10-hour session on 1 more.
Yeah, so it's certainly a rapidly evolving space, which is sort of the fun of it from our perspective, from the vendor perspective, which I know can make it difficult for you all, but we're here to help. If you need us, feel free to follow us on Twitter, email us if you'd like to see a more detailed demonstration, even Open Sesame within the eThink platform. Our teams are happy to create that for you. All right, well, Paige, I really appreciate your time today. It was good to connect with you.
Absolutely. You too, Randy.
All right. Thank you so much to the audience. We look forward to speaking with you again.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.